Hello, Mr. Hamer here. I'm going to give you a quick video rundown of some of the essentials for Chapter 5 on nutrition and animal science. Hopefully, if you watch this video, it is helpful. I'm just going to highlight some of the learning target objectives that we are supposed to know for this chapter and kind of talk in a little more detail on those. Um, you're supposed to know what nutrition is and why it's important. So, nutrition is just how the body uses different nutrients, or basically how the body uses different molecules to promote growth, reproduction, health in general. Why it's important is so we can prevent diseases, recover from diseases more quickly, avoid health factors, improve physical abilities. So if you're talking about like horses, for example, ability to run, ability to produce better offspring, and then it allows us to better understand our own bodies. Specifically, when we look at mammals, we see how their bodies compare and interact, and it's helpful for human studies as well because we can see, well, that's probably pretty similar to how it would respond for a human. There are some differences, but it is still of value. Another thing is that nutrition is a big cost in the agriculture department as far as for maintaining livestock. And so if you can find more cost-effective ways of feeding, you can then maximize production costs as well. So that's another reason why nutrition is important and beneficial to know. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the specific types of nutrients and kind of what they're used for. So it's classified into essential and non-essential. Essential just means that your body requires it. Those are things like water, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, proteins, fats. A lot of those are essentials. They're used for reproduction, growth, lactation are the three important things, but there are also a lot of more specific things that each nutrient is used for, which I'll discuss. Water, for example, helps to regulate your body temperature. Water really absorbs heat well, and so it helps maintain a constant body temperature, which is important for mammals. Specifically, a lot of animals that, unlike humans, they don't sweat as much, so that kind of helps as well. It also helps to dissolve things within the body. It deals with transportation. And it's a part for chemical reactions during respiration as well. So that's for water. Carbohydrates, you're thinking carbs, you're thinking things like grains. So for us, we think of like breads. However, think about more basic than that. We think of bread cereals. For animals, that's more of like a lot of the things in the dry pellets, as well as grains, oats, wheat, things like that. That's a big source of energy. Carbohydrates also make up the majority of their diet. Carbohydrates are kind of like quick energy, so it's very beneficial. Usually they're kind of cheap things to grow if you're thinking hay, things like that. The second one, so we have carbohydrates. Proteins then, these are useful for things like you're thinking protein similar to weightlifting. It helps for increasing muscle mass. So just like that in an animal, the protein is beneficial for um, making up components of the muscles. They also provide enzymes, which enzymes are what speed up reactions. So like our case study, we had protease was the enzyme that helped to actually break down other proteins. So it's a protein working towards other proteins. Proteins are also important for providing different hormones. So whether it's growth hormone, hormones involved with milk production, another association. So that's another thing for protein. You can get protein from things like soybeans, soy meal, different parts of, it depends if they consume other animal products or other animals. And a lot of it is built into the feed itself. So that's why they kind of do a combination of different types of food for different types of animals, but you're trying to give the same animal even a different variety. And then another major component is fats. Fats are kind of a long-term energy storage. So we think about carbohydrates, that's what you burn off quick. That's quick short-term energy. Fats are long-term energy. Fats also provide a lot of contribution to the vitamins. Vitamins we'll talk about next, but fats are, they're also they have a lot of energy per gram. So carbohydrates and proteins are about 4 calories per gram. That's carbohydrates and proteins, 4 calories per gram. for those, where fats have 9 calories per gram within our fats. Sorry, 9. There we go. 9 calories per gram in fat. So fat has more energy per gram. It's also important because in your membranes of your cells, they have fat molecules that help to allow certain things in and keep certain things out. So that's just another feature of fats. Vitamins, also important, just like it's important in our diet. But why vitamins are important? They are essential for blood clotting. They're essential for our immune system, so they help to prevent diseases. They help fight off diseases. And then also just providing different growth and strength to bones. So thinking like vitamin D there would be one we think about. That's a big one in milk. And then minerals. This is the last one we're going to talk about, last nutrient. These are things that you'd find in their inorganic substances. So that's things like salts, salt licks, things like that. These help contribute to bones as well, bones and teeth. They help provide basically what makes bones so strong are from the minerals. This next part, so that's kind of the nutrition side. Now we're talking about the analysis side. So to further study this, the feedstuffs, this is what the term used for kind of the food production and how we term animal food in general. So there are 3 main ways we look at those. We look at them chemically. So basically running through some chemical diagnostics, similar to how we do with the bomb calorimetry, breaking it apart into its individual components. We can also do biological testing. When you think of biological, this is basically testing on other animals. The issue with this, it can be very expensive, time consuming. It takes a lot more tests to run where, it's not like doing it in a lab. And then a third way is microbiology ways. So microbiology, micro meaning small, we're doing the same tests, but we're doing it on bacteria. The reason why they would do this is bacteria reproduces really quickly, and it's easier to control in a lab, so we can see the results much more quickly, and it's also a lot more cost effective than using like a full-size animal. Now, so those are 3 ways that we analyze the food. Within that, there's 3 major types of trials we conduct. So we have 3 ways we analyze it: chemical, biological, microbiological. The chemical is once again breaking up to individual components. Biological is testing on animals. Microbiological is testing it on bacteria. The 3 things we look at when we analyze, or 3 ways to analyze within this system to determine the value. So this is finding out, okay, is this worth it or not? 3 things we look at. They do a feeding trial. This is where they are just offering the food to the animal. Does the animal even like the food? So is it palpable? Does it taste okay? How is the animal responding? Growth, production, things like that. So they kind of measure a lot of body functions. They can even measure, they're going to do like diagnostics within the body. Are the bones as dense? Is the animal producing as much milk? Is the chicken producing as many eggs? Things like that. So that's the feeding trial. That's step 1. Step 2 is then they do a digestion trial. So first they look at how the animal responds. Now they're looking at how much of this food is actually being digested. Because our bodies, we don't fully digest all food. Some of it pass on through waste. Same thing with animals, especially a lot of things that contain high levels of cellulose. Things like in a lot of plant matter can pass through pretty easily without being digested. So here they're seeing of what they ate, how much is digested. So they're kind of actually looking through the animal waste, and they're going to examine basically animal poop. And then the third step is just a metabolism trial. So these are a little more advanced than digestion, but it's kind of the same mindset. So they look at a few other things. They're also looking at urine and some of the other body responses, hair loss, things like that. So we have 3 types of tests they perform. They do the chemical, biological, microbiological. Those are options. They can do all 3, but they can get by without doing all 3. So those are just 3 ways to analyze. Within that, then they have 3 ways they break it down further. So they do the feed stuff trial, or the feeding trial. Does the animal even like it? Digestion trial, is the animal absorbing it? And the metabolism trial is, okay, so the animal breaks it down. How is it being utilized within the body? And that is kind of chapter 5 in a 10-minute, 20-second nutshell.